What if the light you're searching for is already within you, waiting not to be found, but to be remembered? This is the way of Ashla, a path of stillness, strength, and sacred becoming. This is not a religion. It's not a doctrine. It's a living path, a practicing of becoming built on discipline, alignment, and awakening. The way of Ashla is for those who seek truth over comfort, mastery over approval, and peace over performance. If you've ever felt the call to something deeper, something that transcends labels, dogma, or fear, you're not alone. The way of Ashla is a sanctuary for seekers. It's not about belief. It's about who you're becoming. Hello and welcome to the new Ashla Podcast. So happy you joined us today. I am Justin Gates, and on the other end of this wire that goes into the sky and out into space and then back down into Denver somewhere is my co-host Michael.
Hey guys.
This is an episode that's probably 32 episodes late. We probably should have done this episode, the first one, but as we talked about in our show about divine timing, all things in their due time, right? So Today is the day that we're doing this episode, and this one's really about the way of Ashla. My goal today is to dispel any kind of confusion about what we actually do, what we actually stand for, and where we're going with all this. Michael, thank you for joining me today. It's good to see you.
Likewise. Nice rainy weekend. Nothing like getting together and talking some shop.
Talking shop. So before we begin, let's just kind of address the elephant in the room, as it were. While we speak about the Force, this is not fiction. The Way of Ashla is not inspired by a movie. It's inspired by reality. It's inspired by real-world mysticism, metaphysics, ancient spiritual systems that have long taught that there is an energy that connects all things, moves through life, responds to thought, emotion, intention. Star Wars didn't create this idea. It popularized it. It gave it a name. It made it easier for us to understand the big thing with a smaller word. Right? Because words like the Force often come with assumptions. I get it. I had them too, right?
Yeah.
We're not here to play pretend. We're here to walk in truth. We're here to return that idea that was popularized back to its original depth, its ancient roots, its rightful sacredness. So we are, in essence, a group dedicated to spiritual and philosophical exploration. We serve through our philosophy and through the way we walk our path, we serve our brothers and sisters in the world with things like compassion, truth, empathy. We practice the 12 agreements, which are responsibility, respect, family, patience, grace, courage, faith, hope, justice, mercy, generosity, and nobility. I think that's 12. You guys count at home. Pretty sure.
That was good right there, man.
We carry within us the spirit of knighthood, which carries that obligation to be of service to humanity, to that interconnected web, the thing that we're all connected to. The modern day knight is someone who is distinguished by seeking self-betterment, by making the world in which we work and live and play in every day better. So again, the Way of Ashla is not fan fiction. It's not role play. It's not mythology for entertainment, although I hope you do enjoy the shows we do. It is a living, breathing path rooted in real-world spirituality, mysticism, energy work, and the pursuit of mastery, inner mastery, outer mastery, all the masteries. So, Michael, I'll pass the baton to you. What do you think?
Well, I think when we look at our philosophy, the thing I love so much about the lessons I've learned from you, the different types of conversations we have and the perspective we have when we are looking at what it is that we teach and what it is that we practice is it's a melting pot of all these different philosophies, cultures, paradigms of the world that shed light on how to live a more whole and authentic life while simultaneously, while you learn to live a life more for yourself, learning how to live a life more in service to the world around you.
Mm.
It's the perfect balance of those two things, which I've always thought you have people that go to one side or the other. Before I got on this path, it was always you either live your life as a sacrifice to the world around you.
Mm.
I'm going to give up my own freedom so that I can provide for my family or build this business. Or you have the other side where it's like, I'm entitled to everything I want, screw everybody else.
Right.
And there's no middle ground there. Not that I thought I wanted there to be a middle ground.
Yeah.
But as
Or
I've
that you
discovered,
even knew there was a middle ground.
yeah,
Was
no,
yourself.
not at all.
Yeah.
But it's like, because I've spent my whole life trying to be virtuous
Right.
and to be of service to others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a noble thing to do in your heart. But if you can't be selfish, if you can't put your needs first, if you can't make yourself your priority, you're going to lose yourself to the things you are trying to create. And in turn, you're going to cripple the things that you're building.
Right. I'll give you a couple examples that really are reality for me. I am good, but I'm not nice. Right? I'm good, I'm not nice. That's a blending, right?
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, I'm not what you would consider overly friendly. I'm not a very overly friendly person. I am kind, I am compassionate, I am respectful, right? But I don't go out of my way to be friendly. So there is a middle ground there, as you were saying, between these kind of different things. Because if I'm friendly, well, I'll put it to you like this: if I'm nice, then I'll go out of my way to not enforce my boundaries, because you can't be nice and enforce your boundaries. You can't always, you can't always be nice and good at the same time. Sometimes you can be good and nice, but that's more like being respectful, right? So,
yeah,
because if you're always trying to be nice, then you are opening yourself up to be manipulated, as you can speak to, as you've spoken to on many different episodes that we've had here. If you're overly friendly, if you're friendly just for the sake of being friendly and make people like you, well, then you're opening yourself to be manipulated too. So
yeah,
when you assert boundaries into things like nice and friendly, then they start to look like good and respectful, and but not so much overly friendly, because I would rather be good than nice. I can always be good. I can always uphold these ideals and these virtues. They don't always look nice. So when you're asserting those and you're asserting boundaries, but you're also much tougher to manipulate. There definitely is a middle ground there on this path.
yeah. Well, and the thing is it's, I mean, again, I talk often about how everything's a scale, one side to the other. This path addresses the paradigm for each side, for all people, regardless of their life path. It's like one of the things I love about this is no one could come into this regardless of your religious beliefs, regardless of your orientation. Anyone can jump into this, and this philosophy can help them. Their map might look completely different. Again, like me going from nice guy to being a good man would be a different path than someone who has anger issues and needs to learn to relax more.
Mm-hmm.
But we have this philosophy has paths that can help people from this side or the other find their way to the same place of assertive wholeness, of communal integrity. It's beautiful.
Look, and as best as humanly possible, because I am a human, much of this is based on my personal teachings, but I too am flawed. The point of this philosophy was to mirror the actual philosophy of the universe, if you will, as close as I could, because the universe will move you in whatever direction until you're as close to center as it can, as we've said many times. And this philosophy is designed that way to move you left if you're too far right, move you right if you're too far left. And I'm not talking about politically. I'm just saying some of us are oriented, and sometimes maybe that is a thing. But, I'm talking about in totality. If you're off centered to the left a little bit, or to the right, or up or down, this philosophy is designed to kind of make you aware of that, and then kind of push you in whatever direction, because that's what the universe does. Sometimes the universe hits us really hard with stuff so that we will, go, okay, fine, I'll go to the right. Jesus, you're beating the crap out of me here. Can I have a week where you're not testing me or pushing me or whatever? So Excuse me.
Well, I think one thing to really look at is, and I think this is a good way to sum it all up, both sides, and what this path is really for, what this philosophy you've built is really for. And it's one of your favorite words. It's harmony, both inside and out. And it doesn't mean it's a path that'll lead to riches and never having a problem in your life, but it means it's a path that helps you find the ability to navigate the challenges of life. Because life is suffering. That's what the Buddhists said. It's factual. And you look at people, and so many people suffer, and this path is how to find peace within and create peace outside of yourself.
Right.
And again, it doesn't mean controlling things, it just means how to live in harmony, to go with the ebb and flow. And I mean, this philosophy has helped me release the need for control, to let go of a lot of the things that used to hold me back. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So let's talk about the origins of the Force as best we can, with as much time as we can and our limited understanding of the grand universe.
Yeah.
We don't know it all in these little bodies of ours, but we'll do our best. So the origins of the Force go far beyond the screen. Again, I'm trying to help you understand that we are inspired by things that were popularized by a movie, a good movie. I'm not saying I like Star Wars, but Star Wars popularized the things that we're talking about here, that have been here for thousands and thousands of years. So long before the cinema, ancient traditions across the world spoke of a unifying energy. They may not have called it the Force, of course, but they were talking about what we think of when we say the Force.
Well, the reason we use the term the Force, like you said, many cultures believed in this unifying energy. The Force, as we know it when we think of these movies and such, is a great example of what this energy is, what it does, how it lives inside of us, how it gives us these powers that seem almost unnatural. And I'm not talking about moving cars and creating storms, but
Yeah.
it's the ability to connect to all things. I mean, you look in every religion, even Christianity, it maybe doesn't talk about a unifying energy, but it talks about the Holy Trinity, God, the Holy Spirit, and Jesus. The Holy Spirit is the Force. It is that essence of God within us that connects us to every living thing. You look
Right.
at people who live disgruntled and lives that are not connected or in harmony, and you will see one of the biggest missing ingredients is their soul is not connected to more people outside of them.
Right.
Or they have walls up to those connections they have.
Well, that's a perfect example. I'm glad you brought that up, because if you look at the nature of hell in the Christian theology, the idea of hell is simply to be disconnected from God.
Yeah.
Right? You're disconnected from God. So to your point, we use the Force as a way to explain the interconnecting energies of the entire universe. We don't actually care where they come from. We don't care where they come from because, a little time spent in that arena is good, because it helps to balance you and round you out. But don't spend too much time there, because you will think of nothing else for going forward. But the idea of the Force is that we connect to the Force to connect to everything else. We don't have to individually connect to each person in that way. We don't have to connect to every rock, every tree, every plant, every atom. We connect to the Force, and therefore we are connected to everything. And that's why we use it. That word is to help to simplify this, the inevitable nature of this thing that we can barely comprehend.
Well, you look at like many of the spiritual teachings, and a lot of people who are really deep into ancient civilizations, the English language is so limited to express things on an emotional, spiritual level. And so sometimes we need certain grounding points, like using the term the Force, to help give perspective to people, because words are so limiting in trying to describe this. There's a term called samadhi, which I love the concept of samadhi, but there's a whole 3-hour documentary I recommend anyone to watch, sort of getting into spirituality, because it contextualizes so many great things. One of the things they say throughout this 3-part series is samadhi is not a word that you can know. It is not something you can understand. It is something that is a knowing within you, and the only way to cultivate that is through creating or removing the layers of self. And yeah, so these words, like especially in Hebrew and Sanskrit especially, I mean, we are so limited in our modern day language. So yeah, it gives us an anchoring point to help people. I know what the force is. I can start modeling this image in my mind of
Mm-hmm.
this energy that you're speaking of.
Yeah. That sounds like a lot like the Tao or
Yeah.
Tao, whichever you prefer. It also sounds a lot like Gnosticism, a little bit. So these ideas, and that's a perfect way to put it, because these ideas are universal for the most part. You see it in Taoism, the way, the flow, ungraspable order of nature, right? You see it in the prana, the Hinduism, the prana, the Buddhism, chi,
Yeah.
life force energy. You see it in Hermeticism, the principle of vibration. Everything moves, everything is connected. Christian mysticism, that indwelling light of Christ, the Holy Spirit, as you said, flowing through all, connecting all. Sufi mysticism, the Kabbalah teachings, Gnostic insight, etc., etc., etc. I mean, we could sit here for half the episode listing everything that we can find that talks about the ideal of this force. And again, language is as it is. We call it the force. It could be called lots of different things, but the ideal is the same. The force is the common thread between many of these sacred systems, probably most of them. I would wager. I would wager the bet. What Star Wars did was gave it visibility, gave it a name, right?
Yeah.
What we offer on this path is depth.
Yeah.
So again, Star Wars didn't invent the force; it popularized it.
Yeah.
George Lucas himself said that he drew on mythology, theology, philosophy, both Western and Eastern, when developing these Jedi and their understanding of the Force. But it was never, and for him, it wasn't really meant to be fantasy, with the exception of scripting how the movie played out. It was meant to reflect something more timeless and more real. So
Yeah.
and this is what our path, the way of Ashla, does. It takes that glimmer of truth and it pulls on the roots of these ancient practices. We provide the structure, reflection, discipline, and teachings for those who feel that the force is both a metaphor, but a metaphor for some, because the force really is a metaphor for some, and that's fine. They're still touching the force in some way, but also more than a metaphor for like us. We believe it's more than a metaphor. We believe it literally does the things that we're saying.
Yeah.
But really, the student or the practitioner brings that decision to the path. It doesn't change the path that will set you upon,
Yeah.
because you can really explore this path whether you just kind of take everything metaphorically or you believe, as we do, that the force does literally bind everything together and connects us to one another.
Right. One other thing I think is important to bring up as we talk about the creating clarity with what this path is, especially in relation to the metaphors we use. We talk about knighthood a lot. And when we talk about knighthood, yes, it does sort of correlate with how you look at Jedi Knights. These stoic beings who are looking to create the greatest good they can in a
Mhm.
balanced and harmonious way.
Right.
But the reason we are so focused on this path and our teachings, and if you were to join our what we are building, this temple we're building to help people cultivate their best selves, is because when you look at knighthood, when you think of someone who is a knight, it is someone who is not just a good person who does good in the world, but has strong character, who
Hmm.
stands by what they say, who is strong within themselves so they can create strength in the world around them. And that doesn't mean bulldozing and being arrogant, because part of being strong is also being humble.
Yeah.
But I think that's another important thing to touch on when we're looking at separating the way we talk about these things.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you were to jump into our teachings as we build this, what we are building for you guys, you will see it's not something where it's, oh, take these online classes, you're good, all right, cool, you're a knight. You will
Hmm.
see that it involves trials, that it'll involve different practices that will challenge you and will
Hmm.
change you, because it's about cultivating that inner strength. It's about fighting those inner demons, destroying those self sabotaging behaviors.
Yeah.
And reaching a place where you are harmonious with the force, with God, with the universe.
Right.
It is living a
Yeah.
life of virtue and valor while also being human in that.
Yeah. And forgiving yourself for that.
Yeah.
Forgiving yourself for that. So in the way of Ashla, the force is living. It moves and responds even to the most subtle intention. It's limitless. I can't make my arms bigger than limitless. This is the best I could do. Beyond the boundaries of language, of religion, tradition, whatever. It's interpersonal and intimate at the same time. Two truths, paradoxes. It governs galaxies and lives within your breath, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's transformational. When we align with it, not worship it, when we align with it, it changes everything. You know, we don't worship the force, we align. We do not try to control it, we surrender to it.
Yeah.
We don't pretend it's real. We live our lives as if it is because it is. Point blank for us.
Yeah.
So, you know, we could call it spirit, we could call it source, we could call it God, we could call it vibration, the divine, call it energy. And sometimes we do, right? Sometimes we do call it these other things. And that's really an attempt to reach across cultures and languages and systems and barriers that are just propped up in the world.
Yeah.
But we use the word the force because it's clean and it's direct and it's powerful. It evokes things within us, partly because of the movie, but also because in the way that it's practiced. So it reminds us that spirituality is not just a belief, it's momentum, it's awareness, it's choice, right? So, yes, we use the language that some recognize from the fiction, but this path, again, is not fiction. I am real. I'm as real as it gets. Michael will tell you he's real.
Yeah.
You guys are real. I know. I know you're out there, and I know you're real. So, it's a sacred philosophy rooted in ancient truth, offered to modern seekers like me and Michael and you, who are ready to live with purpose and integrity and light. So Ashla is not a fantasy. It's a return. It's a remembering. It's a remembrance, right? A return to truth that everything is connected. Everything is energy and everything responds to who you are becoming. Not who you were, not who you might be, because those things happen in the moment, but who you are right now. So what is the Way of Ashla? Point blank, the Way of Ashla is not a religion. It's not a set of commandments. The axioms are not commandments, right? The 12 agreements are not the 12 commandments. We added 2 in there. It's a path. It's a living, breathing, evolving path of light, but also responsibility, transformation. At its heart, the Way of Ashla is a philosophy of becoming, growing.
Yeah. Well, and it's, I mean, when it comes to the becoming, it's really an unbecoming. You look at so much of the things we talk about in this show, we're always focused on how to help you become more authentic because we spend our whole lives trying to get away from that. But this path, again, it's not a religion. It is not. It is a life path in which allows us to cultivate our true strength, our true authentic selves, to understand ourselves on a level that isn't these societal masks we wear. This is a way of breaking down the lives we've led so that we can blossom into who we really are instead of trying to become these finite ideals, become, what am I looking for here? To become imagined versions of ourselves. We can become who we truly are.
Mm-hmm.
Because we often spend so much of our lives chasing a version of ourselves that is not true to us, that is inauthentic,
Yeah.
that is the most unfulfilled version of ourselves. You look at Western society and we chase stature, we chase material possessions, and so many dreams are built around these outside things. This path returns us home. This path returns us to source, to the force. It returns us to
Us.
what really matters in life. Yeah, to us.
To us.
Genuine connection.
Yeah. It's for people who seek truth beyond dogma. Now, dogma is created in any philosophy or any religion or whatever. That happens. But better your own personal dogma than somebody else's. You know, that's a human That's a human thing. We like to create dogma. It doesn't have dogma, but it can become dogma if you allow it to, but better your own than somebody else's. For those who crave alignment more than approval, for those who feel a deeper calling within themselves, a call to become more than what the world has told them they are. And again, Ashla is not something you just believe in. It's something you live, something you embody, something you refine through every thought, action, and moment of presence. Here, over there, here. It's also people who walk this path. We don't walk it to rise above others. We walk it to rise above ourselves. So the heart of the Way of Ashla. The Way of Ashla is a living philosophy rooted in light, personal transformation, and harmony with the force, the universe, God, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. And I'll say this again because it's important to kind of separate. This also helps separate us from the fiction too, because the fictional force users, we'll just call them, had a set of rules that were just set in stone and they couldn't deviate, or they'd be kicked out, or they'd be whatever, right?
Right.
So for us, this isn't a set of cold rules or abstract beliefs. It's a living path. It's a path that breathes and it evolves and it expands and grows with us. But at the same time, it recognizes that no two souls walk the same journey.
Yeah.
And yet each one is part of the same whole. We don't walk the same journey, but we practice the same path. We're not on the same journey all the time, but we still are part of the same luminous whole. And to live by Ashla is to walk in light, not in the absence of shadow, but in the presence of awareness. So
it's almost like it teaches us to not be afraid of the dark.
Yeah, you should never be.
That's more of a metaphor than it is us actually afraid of the dark. But what this philosophy teaches us, we all have those little things, those little insecurities, that when we're faced in a situation where those insecurities flare up, we become different people. We act from a place of inauthenticity.
Yeah.
We act from a place of fear or control. And this path helps us create light in those areas of darkness to help learn more about why we do what we do, so we can become who we are if we were to bring those things to the light and integrate them into who we are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see so many things, we've talked about this offline, about you see online nowadays, all these alpha groups, become an alpha man and hone your inner beast. And some of us may need a little bit of learning how to use our teeth. But being alpha in itself is not a path of wholeness. It is a path of control.
Ashla, to walk this path, and the way we teach it is to be devoted first to personal transformation, not as a project for your ego, but as this sacred refinement through honesty, through humility, through discipline, through and this alignment with something greater than ourselves. We've talked about before in other episodes how that's a really important part of evolving, because you really can't evolve without it. You don't evolve completely eventually without it. So, and that could be God, the force, it could be whatever. It could be to a higher version of yourself if you don't believe in a deity or an energy or whatever. So, but it's to bring us into alignment with something greater than us. And that's why we talk about service, because that helps us get outside of ourselves and reach for something that's not just egocentric. And it is to live in harmony with the force, the universe. Again, that unseen current that flows through all things. It's not controlled. It's not manipulated. We sense it. We honor it. We align with it. Kind of like if a river could talk, it would invite us to jump in and flow with it, not fight against it, because it knows its nature and it knows that we can't stand there for long before we're taken down there anyway. Ashla is not just a way to think. It's a way to live, to feel, to serve, and to become. So this path, as I've said, it's designed to be holistic. It's designed to touch all parts of ourselves, our emotional selves, our physical selves, our mental selves, our spiritual selves. So it draws from science. It draws from mysticism. It draws from psychology. It draws from ancient energy systems and magic systems evolving this path to help us align. Again, alignment with our mind, body, spirit, heart, emotions, the universe. It's about learning to align, to surrender the stuff we can't control, and to align with the things that we were meant to be in alignment with. And as you said earlier, we talk about we transcend cultures and languages and stuff. This path is not bound to one culture. You don't have to be born a certain way or in a certain place or have certain beliefs. It's not bound. It's not bound to anything, any of those things. It's not bound to time. It's not bound to system or belief. Again, you don't have to take a literal belief that the force is the things I'm saying. You can look at it as a metaphorical understanding. You could call it something else, as we've talked about. It's fine. But again, it's a living philosophy that gathers its wisdom from many sources, as we've talked about.
I mean, one thing we kind of mentioned earlier is this philosophy. You can come in from any walk of life, whether it's a religious walk, whether it's whatever is you and the experiences you've had. This isn't something that's going to remove religion out of your life or remove your culture out of your life. This is something that integrates into your lifestyle. I know one thing I've brought up before is how growing up, one of the reasons I love Buddhism so much is because I was a very devout Christian. And Buddhism didn't require me to give up Christianity in order to follow its teachings. This is very much the same type of beast, where it is a philosophical path to help live a more true and right life. To get in harmony with yourself, with the world around you, and with God or the Force. But this does not require you to give up your culture, your religion, your life to follow. This is something that can integrate into any walk of life.
Because it meets you where you are.
Yeah.
And its only goal is to bring you into harmony. And its goal is to help you grow. You will face yourself, sometimes in mortal combat, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
This isn't easy work.
Just like many of the ancient religions and ancient philosophies, there are symbolic deaths. There's plenty of that here because you can't change and you can't grow if you're not willing to change. And sometimes to change means we kill versions of our old self, metaphorically. So again, this path, it honors mystical teachings of our ancient peoples. And I use that word very loosely, peoples, like from all over the earth. It embraces the insights of modern disciplines. And Michael helps with this a lot for me. Things like psychology, neuroscience, metaphysics, quantum understanding. But there's something else that we have in the mix and something we deeply honor. And this goes back to what you said earlier about knights. We look at and integrate with and align with chivalric orders of the past. We talk about honor, duty, humility, justice, mercy, nobility. I'm not going to name all 12. Service. And we kind of not reshape them or change them, but align with them in a more modern setting, because this is where we are. 200 years from now, someone else will be sitting here or sitting somewhere and talking about the Way of Ashla, and they'll be talking about it in a slightly different way, probably. Hopefully. I hope that's the case, because people have moved on to a different way of life then. So must move with them and change and grow with them. But we don't wear armor. We don't carry swords, usually. But we still defend the vulnerable. We still stand in truth. We serve the light with unwavering purpose. Because, like we're talking about the modern knight, it's not defined. We don't believe that a knight is defined by the battles they fight, but the peace they protect within and around them. That's what a modern knight does. And that's done in many different ways that we can get into someday on an episode. In kind of this chivalric idea, in this chivalric essence, it's not just admired, it's embodied. This is where the 12 agreements come from. It's where our codes come from. And really, at the end of the day, it's lived through our daily actions, our daily thoughts, our daily intentions, our hard choices. And sometimes restraint, sometimes the hardest part. Ashla calls us to align some things. We talk about alignment a lot. It calls to us to align our mind with wisdom, our body with discipline, our spirit with the force, and our heart with compassion and courage.
Well, and through this path, it calls us to do the best we can to create the best life we can. So many of us wander around stagnant, without purpose, without direction. When we wander around aimlessly, though, looking for our purpose in life, often it's because we're devoid of having a life we've led for ourselves, a life that's led through truly asking ourselves the hard questions of who we truly are. This
Mm-hmm.
path wants us to integrate these things, to help us awaken to the things that we have deemed unworthy.
Mm-hmm. So, Ashla, this word, think of it as an integrated light. It's a way of living that brings together spiritual wisdom, emotional mastery, energetic awareness, moral discipline, sacred service, if I had to name a couple. I said this before, it's not an escape from the world, it's a return to the world in alignment with the world, with the universe, the force, God, or whatever descriptor you use. Here's what we don't do. We don't offer salvation in that more traditional sense. What we do offer is awakening, clarity, inner alchemy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite words, alchemy. And what that is, that's just basically the transformation of ignorance into insight, focus, emotion into understanding, conflict into harmony. It's a path for the modern mystic.
Yeah.
It's built on living principles. So we have the Axioms of Light, we have the 12 agreements, we have our 3 codes, and we have the force, but then we also have the practice of alchemy. Now, here's something I want to make the path of Ashla is not a hierarchy. This is why it's not a religion. It's not a hierarchy, it's a circle. Do you understand what I mean by that? It's a circle. Why do you think we would use a circle, Mike?
The connectedness of all things?
There's no point on a circle where one is more important or higher than the other. We use a round table, in other words.
That makes sense.
Our council sits at a round table. To borrow from legends of King Arthur. King Arthur used a round table so that no knight or king was above another, so that their voice wasn't more important. They were seen as equals. Unlike these traditional hierarchies, Ashla is built on a council, not control, mutual growth, not rigid rank. We do have ranks, but they're for a different purpose.
Yeah.
Even as one ascends through the path, from initiate to Padawan to knight to luminary, each person is still, no matter where they're at, seen as a reflection of the light, not a ruler of it. We gather in circles, not thrones.
Yeah.
We do through service, not status.
Well, even all our meetings, I mean, as we've built this thing together, even before we started building it, as we would talk about it, it was always a discussion. You would tell me what your dream was with it, but it was malleable. It was something that had room for discussion, debate, for creation, co-creation, and not just something that was, you want to build a kingdom. It was, let's build something that creates change in the world and allows others to do that as well.
Yeah. Well, we are all co-creators because we're all interconnected. We are, and we must honor. If we're to stand in truth, we must model the truth of this great universe of ours. So what do we seek to do? What does our path seek to do for us and others? We're going to get into this part, and Michael's going to roll his eyes. I'm going to watch him on the camera. The Way of Ashla is not about giving you the answers.
Okay, yeah.
It's about refining the kind of person who can live the answers with integrity, strong character.
When it comes to those paradoxes, I mean, the answer will not be the same for each person.
Right.
The same question will never have the same answer depending on the person, and it's up to the person to discover the answer.
Right.
That was one of the hardest things I went through, which is why I rolled those eyes, but
I know you did.
It's the truth. It was the
law
truth.
Of confusion.
Even when I needed months to answer a question, I had to come to the answer myself.
Heather is off camera rolling her eyes too. Ashla is not here to convert. It's not here to convince. It's here to awaken. This path exists to guide you and I into alignment.
Yeah.
So that every thought, every emotion, every action, every intention becomes an expression of light, personal, powerful, present, in alignment. So let's talk about awaken. Let's go through these real quick.
Yeah.
What does it seek to do? It seeks to awaken. And my whole goal is to awaken people to their own inner light. That point of connection where the others points of light connect. And the first aim of Ashla is to awaken the individual to the truth of their being, that they are not separate, they're not random, they're not powerless. They are a vessel of energy, of consciousness, of sacred purpose, but also connected to all things through the force, but to also be individualistic. There's room for that too. So to awaken means to recognize that the light within you is real, that your emotions and your thoughts and your choices have energetic consequences. And I'm going to say both positive and negative, because those aren't great ways to describe the truth of the universe, but that's how we see them. We as in human beings, because sometimes we have to have these opposing things, these dual natures, so that we can help understand things, right?
Yeah.
So, and that
Well, there's so much.
every moment holds the potential for transformation and deeper awareness. Sorry, go ahead.
Just that you look at many of these spiritual teachings that are out there today. I mean, this isn't unique in the sense of awaken, because that is the spiritual path. For those listening, you're most likely tuned in to enough information out there to hear about awakening. And this is exactly what we refer to in our teachings. Our teachings is a way to help people do that in a authentic and effective way, which is why we want to teach people. But awakening is the path of spirituality, and that when you hear this, we are very much aligned with all the other teachings that are out there. This is our way and approach to help people awaken to themselves and to their authenticity, and to connect themselves to the divine connection, which is connected to all things. But above all, it's not just the light in the world, but the light within themselves.
Yeah, well said. To integrate, that's the next one. To integrate wisdom through practical application, practical discipline, practical meditation, and ethical conduct. Awakening is not enough without integration. You can awaken, but what you do with that, the next step, is probably the most important first step you're going to take. You must start to integrate. It doesn't have to be with Ashla, but you have to integrate into something.
Well, and this is one of the strengths within these teachings. This is one of the things that made me so dedicated to this when you started training me, is because there are tons of different classes, courses, books, all these things that can help you awaken to the truth, to the light.
Mm-hmm.
But to integrate that wisdom into your being, to start taking action, to actually start implementing the changes needed with that awakening, that is where there is so much strength in this philosophy. Because without integration, all you have is knowledge, and knowledge without action.
Right on the money. I'm going to call him Money Man Michael today. He is on the money.
Ching.
I'm going to call you Hawkeye from now on. Yes, 100 times yes. We teach and we practice that true mastery is not found just in knowledge, but in the embodiment, right?
Yep.
Well said. This path exists to help us bring our values into action, our insight into choices. So this is what integration looks like. I think you've already covered a couple of these. Practicing what you preach. And that's a big one. Nobody likes somebody who doesn't practice what they preach. Aligning our inner world with our outer behavior. Building discipline, awareness, and compassion into every area of your life. The way is not a place you go, Michael. The way is not a place you go. It's how you show up in every space that you enter. Service is a big one. I hammer this pretty hard with you guys all the time, don't I?
Yeah.
We serve the world by creating peace, clarity, and compassion. First in here, because if we get ourselves squared away, that's one less problem the world is going to have, right?
Yeah.
But it's not just about self-enlightenment alone. That's where it starts. It then and the path then calls us to become these instruments of peace, protectors of truth, these torch bearers, passing the torch on.
Yeah. Well, and above all, I mean, the most important way you can serve, we all have these aspirations of we want to provide for our families, we want to do good by others, we want to be generous. But the greatest way to serve is to be a representation of what you want to see in the world, to be
the best way we can serve the world is by being the best version of ourselves.
Yeah.
That is the most powerful way to serve this world.
Yeah.
And that's what
To
I
be an
try
example, that's what I was looking
to
for.
be an example. That's another, that's perfect. Creating harmony in a world of chaos, both inside and out. Defending the vulnerable. This is where that kind of that knightly stuff comes in, both outwardly and inwardly, because we stand up for somebody who is in a vulnerable spot, who may be getting bullied or someone's talking smack, gossiping to you about them behind their back, but also, and to stand up for them in that moment, but also inwardly to control our urge to judge them or to use their vulnerability against them, to serve as uplifting others with a healthy and balanced ego, not to control them, right? Using our growth as a way to become a source of healing for ourselves and others, not to be superior to or lord it over them. We do not walk the way of Ashla to become better than others. We walk it to become better for others. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah. Well, and it's so true. I mean, often we want to tell people this is how you live, this is what you need to do. But if we can lead by example, if we can go in there and become the change we want to see, others will follow us as they see what stems from that.
Yes.
And above all, you will also have the credibility of your words.
Right.
Because back to that whole, if you don't practice what you preach, people are not going to take you seriously.
They will not. And there may be times where we do have to instruct people, right? Look, you got to do this. But if we're not mirroring that behavior, if we're not living up to those words, then as you said, they're not going to care what you say anymore. So, and the last one I have here is concerning alchemy, transform. This is what Ashla does. This is what it seeks to do. It seeks to transform. Above all else, it's a path of transformation. It's not about chasing perfection. It's about refining the self through practice, insight, presence. And our teachings emphasize becoming both the forge, but also the one who swings the hammer. Bing. Because you're also the raw materials. Bing.
Yeah.
Right. So, and we have to be responsible for that.
Well, it's, I mean, most of the people who come into our practice, who come to learn, are people who are going through that dark night of the soul. And often we go through hardship. It's easy to blame the world around us. But if we take these difficult moments in our life, which is what we do in our teachings, and we let ourselves be cast in that fire, that metal is so much more malleable. We're able to hone in and cultivate, to sharpen the sword, to become more than we were before, to handle the storms that are present within our lives. And that is true alchemy, because we transmute that pain into purpose. We transmute that anger into understanding. We transmute that sadness into drive. I mean, all these things in our lives that try to tear us down are all opportunities for us to become more than we ever were before.
Right. Right. And you will become more than you ever were before every single day. And you'll start to notice that you're transforming, you're growing. When you meet your shadow with compassion, when you can hug the cactus, when you respond to this chaos with clarity and focus, when you choose virtue and take the high road, especially when the low road would be much easier and much faster. When you move from just reacting to everything to responding to things, from resistance to rhythm, instead of being the resistance to the flow, you become the flow.
Yeah.
So in essence, this is what we seek to do. We seek to awaken the sacred, refine the soul, embody the light, create peace, inner peace, inspire integrity, align with the unseen rhythms of the universe. You can feel them, can't always see them, and build a life where your presence heals more than it harms. All right, so that's what we seek to do. How does it work? Well, to tell you that in totality would be to spend the next 100 hours with you here, and I don't think I have that kind of stamina. So how does it work? Well, our path is structured around a few key pillars. And I've already told them to you. Let's see if you, those of you at home, know. I'll give you a minute to go to shout them at me through the phone or through the computer, whatever you're listening to. So the force, the Axioms of Light, the 12 Agreements, the Codes, and Inner Alchemy. And Michael, as a practitioner, you have attested to this without any prompting before, how each of these things build on the one before it. And this doesn't create a hierarchy, but harmony between the evolving self and the ever-expanding universe.
Well, they're all threads in a tapestry, right? They all
Right.
interconnect, interweave, and create this grander picture.
Yes.
It helps us to take our lives in the chaos we are in, all these falsehoods, all these self-denials. It helps culminate this all together to create something that is true. I mean, the number one thing within this path that we seek is truth. That's why it's flexible, malleable. That's why it's a roundtable discussion instead of a hierarchy of this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Because everyone's truth is different. Perception is reality. But often when we are trapped in that perception, that's when we need these teachings to help give us all these different layers to help truly challenge our perceptions and create something that is true and authentic.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a living path. You have to walk this path, not wander. And sometimes it's okay to wander from the path, but understand you have to have action. There has to be a drive to keep walking it.
Yeah.
Not to walk it exactly the way I walk it, because that's not possible. I can only walk the path of Ashla the way I can. I can give you all the tools. I can show you where the path starts. You have to walk it yourself. And like all meaningful journeys, our way is supported by these pillars and principles and the idea of progressive growth. You have to be growing. I'm gonna read something to you, Michael, from my master, Derek Thompson. On the edge of your awareness is a silhouette, an intermittent echo of a spiritual and philosophical stirring taking place within you. Perhaps it has always been there, or maybe it is only recently that you have begun to notice it. But one thing is certain, you can no longer avoid or ignore it. You've heard the call, and you have felt the pull of an unknown force that has been trying to wake you from a long and deep spiritual slumber. You can no longer turn away from this force that moves you in the direction of personal development and philosophical betterment. Nothing happens without reason or purpose. Your search and our presence, the union of both, is not luck or chance. It is providence. His words echo a deep, deep, deep sacred truth of the heart of a true explorer, of the heart of a true journeyer, and in this case, an explorer on the path of Ashla. We live these words because we never stop seeking. We never stop journeying. Path never ends. So let's go over these pillars real quick, because again, it would take hundreds of hours to go through this. And if you're interested, just come see me and you'll go through this and you will say, oh my God, you weren't kidding. Weren't kidding. So the force. First one is the force. The way of Ashla begins and ends with the force, if there ever was an ending. And it's that living energy that flows through all things. We don't theorize it. We listen to it. We align with it. We live to be in service with it. The force serves, and we endeavor to be in service with it. But to know the force is to know the rhythm beneath all things, all change, breath beneath all creation. We do not believe or teach that the force is a god or a tool. It's that unifying current of life, and it responds to our presence, and it responds to our intention, our emotions, our purposes. And in my teachings of the Ashla Way, we typically have 9 levels that we travel in this path to be in alignment with the force. The next pillar is awakening. This is that moment when you become aware of a subtle presence, an energetic, a stirring, as Master Thompson called it. The connection of the force is felt, but not quite yet understood.
Well, a stirring is a good way to phrase it, too, because it's when you start to see that these systems that you've operated from, these beliefs you've held that have helped you survive up until this point, are rubbing against who you were and who you are becoming. And that stirring is that friction. It's that realization that something is off, that maybe this approach I've taken with life needs to be reevaluated. We talk about shadow work often on this podcast. Shadow work is taking a light and shining it on the things in the unconscious, these things that are out of our awareness, out of our perception.
Yeah. And we stirred up all kinds of stuff in you, didn't we? These are, and I should have said this before, I forgot. These are the nine, kind of the 9 levels that we teach within the Force. The second one is that intellectual exploration. This is, and Michael, you're going to listen, you're going to hear these, and you're going to find yourself, wow, I've been in these different levels quite often. I've been in and out of them a lot, and the reason is because you're an individual. You didn't, we have 9 levels that we try to work people through, but sometimes they'll skip around. So awakening is the first level that we teach that puts us in alignment with the Force, or helps us find that alignment. The second one is exploration. Your curiosity is now starting to grow. You start to read, you start to contemplate and exploring different ideas. There is this initial understanding of interconnectedness and the balance of these energies and the philosophies that surround the Force. So we're awakened to it. There's a stirring. Now we're starting to, wow, I need to know more about this. And this next one is personal experience with the Force. I was so overjoyed when you shared with me your first actual conscious personal experience with the Force. You want to share that with people? Because it was pretty cool.
What was the moment you're referring to?
When I taught you the Force awareness meditation, where you were expanding and contracting, controlling, right? The energy, how you made it small and then you made it
I know
big.
what you're talking about now. Yeah. No, so we have this meditation where you lay there, you feel the energy within your body, and you feel that energy go to the surface of your skin. So you embrace that energy, it starts to flow outwards to your skin. As you can feel that energy encapsulating you, you expand it. And you expand it into the room around you. Eyes closed, try to sense the room around you, everything in it. Try to see it from your mind's eye and not from your physical eyes. Then from there, expanded further. I expanded it into the house. Could see the house I was in, the people in the house, the animals. And then from there, I expanded even more to the town, the cars driving around, the wind blowing in the trees. And then from there, it went from the city to the state. A much more bird's eye view. But as it grew and grew, I was able to take my awareness and surround the world with it. And the beauty of this isn't having a bird's eye view of everything going on, but it was amazing being able to separate from myself and become one with all things. To take all the struggle I was going through, because this is what the beautiful thing it did for me was it let me go from this dark night I was going through and expand into this awareness of so much more than what I was. To exist, to be all that is within this sphere. And it was so powerful because that's one of the first moments I felt so in tune with all things. Because I was all things.
Yeah, because
I was an observer of all things.
Yes.
It's not that I could control and move the cars around on the grid. It is that I became one with the flow of it all.
Right. You could see them without having to judge them.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's an example of kind of the next stage, our personal experience with the Force. The next stage is challenging our ego, because as our sensitivity to the energies of the world, the universe, increases, we can start to get a big head about it.
Well, a lot of the stuff we work on too, it's like it's ego death, not in the sense of killing the ego, but to learn to heal, because so many of us operate from a broken ego. And you're right. I know one of the things I ran into, I wouldn't call it a big head as much as my ego was evolving with me. And I had to look at the new games it was playing and trying to keep me complacent in this over-identification with myself.
Right.
And I'll be honest, I still deal with this. I think we all do to a degree.
We do.
But that's what awareness does. I mean, it's working with the ego instead of against it, to understand its motives and to help it cultivate healthier ways to get its needs met, I guess you could say. Yeah. My example always I use a lot is how love and validation, right? I always tried all my people pleasing, all my self-sacrificing was all to get these needs met of love and validation from others. And I never realized that until I did. And once I did, I had to that's when I realized I had to give myself that. And that's been the work I've had to do with my ego, is to, instead of do things externally to get that, to give it to myself in the moment for the work I am doing and not need it from anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is the time where our ego sees our newfound awareness and says, how could I use this to my advantage? This stage is about learning humility and being humbled sometimes, because there is this temptation to misuse these new insights or these new powers.
Well, the ego gets scared, right?
It does. Well, it does, because it's like, oh, wow. It gets scared, and then it will either do one of two things. It will try to make you suppress you and make you not be so aware or have so much new insight, or it will try to
distract you.
or right, or it'll try to hijack this new power to use for its greater good. So this could be kind of an iffy stage, but
and realistically, it'll be messy. Like, one thing I want to say is,
it will, but it's also one of the most transformative phases in these teachings, where you must learn self-discipline and learn to balance and align your ego and your spirit together, your higher self, your lower self together, so that they move and live in alignment with what you're doing. The next stage is commitment and devotion, because this becomes, once you're here, this becomes one of conscious dedication. And this is where most of the students now step out of that initiate role and into that Padawan role, where there's a better defined and clarity of purpose. Your meditations are deepening and becoming more transformative. And you start to learn what service to the greater harmony of the universe looks like. And this is also when most people will surrender to the will of the force and begin living in alignment, or making that alignment the most important thing to them.
right.
The next one is the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight, not Batman. I'm talking about Batman. Shadow work, the Dark Knight, that inner trial. This is where your shadow work starts to intensify, because as you open up and open up and open up, you start opening up these old wounds and these old scars. These old fears and illusions come to be confronted, because there's the two parts of yourself are looking to also align and integrate. And to do that, things have to come up to the surface. Things have to be confronted. And this is really kind of that crucible where your true will and your true strength and resilience are forged through this process. You get folded and put under heat. You now start. This is where that process of being the raw materials, being the forge, and also being the smith come together. This is where you start to really kind of integrate. And of course, this work goes on forever, but this is where it really happens. The biggest parts of it, the bigger parts of the shadow work, and that inner, and this kind of comes with some existential crises sometimes too. So it's better to do it with a guide. The expansion of consciousness is next. The force is no longer out there in everything. It's now really solidly in here within. And the practitioner becomes attuned to the rhythms of the universe, the flow and the rhythm, the subtle energies, the synchronicities, and deeper truths become perceptible, like clear as day.
Yeah, I mean, I love how you've laid this out. I didn't get to see this ahead of time, and just hearing this step-by-step path is exactly what this is. I mean, once your ego flares up, then you break it down with the shadow work as you start to do the work to integrate the shadow, and you become one with it. The more you become one with yourself, the more you become one with all things. And as you do, it's crazy how well you can perceive the things happening around you, understanding them, understanding yourself, but as well as not being disturbed by it, which is usually what those wounds would do. Those wounds
Right.
that he was talking about, that the shadow work opens up, are exactly these paradigms we operated around before beginning this journey. Our whole lives are cultivated around not hurting, not feeling those pains that we had before, whether it's rejection, worthlessness, inadequacy. I mean, It is opening these wounds up, giving them air to breathe so that you can heal them and develop new belief systems, because at the core of these wounds are the agreements that we made with ourselves that made us develop these coping mechanisms and strategies to exist in the world. But as you begin to heal those, you begin to not be as affected when that wound gets poked.
Yeah.
Because it's healing, because it's no longer controlling your life.
And it's at this, around this point in your path, in your development through the Way of Ashla, is where you get to take another look at the axioms, and you get to look at what you wrote through the first six or so stages here. And then you get to look at the axioms again and put them up against to what you wrote, and you will find growth. You will look at them differently. But this is the part of your path where wisdom starts to replace knowledge. I don't just know stuff, I'm doing stuff. And where really peace starts to replace struggle. We always struggle forever a little bit, but you learn how to be at peace versus just struggling through everything. The next part is effortless action. This is where we begin to move in, I won't say perfect alignment, but where we start to move in harmony with the force. And we're no longer forcing outcomes at this point. The ego is aligned, and it's not shouting over everything. Our actions become intuitive and graceful. And I won't say there is no struggle, but there virtually struggle has left you, because we're really flowing and vibing. We let the right time come. We have conscious intention, and we really truly become that luminous vessel of light, where people now see it in everything we do, in our words, in our steps of our feet are in.
One way I like to look at this is, before I started this journey, when I did things, it was because I wanted something outside of myself. So forced actions, control, complete, how do I phrase this?
Looking for that perfect piece that just somewhere out here to make me whole.
Yeah, but when you're in tune with yourself, when you're pursuing your goals from this place instead of a place of lack, scarcity, or wanting it for something, wanting something out here or something in the future to define you, you're able to act from a place where you're able to flow with the ups and the downs and maintain momentum, where you're able to grow with your dream instead of hold yourself to these rigid standards you set in the beginning.
Yeah.
It allows it to be effortless, because no longer is it something you're trying to force. It becomes something that happens naturally. You're aligned with it. They talk about flow in the healing community, where when you're in flow, it's effortless energy. You can go, 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 go without burning out.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never experienced that until this, because this is in harmony with my being, with my
Mm-hmm.
with my aspirations. And we've now released 32 episodes, and we've gotten some momentum with it, but it's not near where we want to get with it. And that's totally fine, because I'm not controlling the outcome.
Right.
I know I'm putting myself out there. I'm putting the energy out there, and I will grow with this thing I'm building,
Right.
which will then manifest into something greater than probably I could imagine.
Yeah. So at this point, effortless action is where one typically becomes a knight within our philosophy, within our way. There's only one more spot to go, but that doesn't mean the journey ends and that you stop learning. That's the embodiment and the radiance of just, you're a lighthouse, right?
Yeah.
At this stage, one becomes a luminary, a living expression of the force, a living expression of the way, of the path of Ashla. This person embodies in their total being humility and mastery and compassion and stillness, to name a few. Their mere presence, just being there, becomes a teaching for others. They don't ever really have to say a lot. Just their presence alone, the light they carry with them, teaches and guides. And this is, at this point, they stop seeking so much and just start being. They just are at this point. Everything flows naturally, easily. Struggle is almost non-existent at this point, because they no longer attach to struggle. They no longer attach to anything that blocks that flow. So that's the first pillar, the force. The second one are the axioms of light, which we talk about a lot on here. They're kind of They're kind of our road markers, maybe, or what would you say the axioms are for the path?
Ideals?
Ideals?
With all the axioms, there is not an axiom that would not pertain to some situation in your life.
Mm-hmm.
There's something to give you clarity and to separate from yourself, especially while you're starting this path. Which, like Justin said, each step of the path, these axioms will ring different.
Mm-hmm.
But they are able to help someone on this journey evaluate their situation from a higher perspective. They speak to the higher self. They speak to the truth and nature of the way of things.
Mm-hmm.
And they help us get in touch with evaluating circumstances, especially when we are very much in that ego-driven place. Especially while you're starting to heal and the ego's trying its best to maintain its control over you. It helps give you clarity over the steps you are going through,
Mm-hmm.
whatever they may be.
Yeah. The axioms, again, are not to be worshipped. They're not commandments. They are a mirror. They are a compass. They're a torch. They're lots of things, and all the things you said too. So they don't just guide us along the path. They illuminate our consciousness.
Yeah, if you think of this like a map, the healing journey, this path is a map. The axioms are the nature book to help you evaluate the foliage and the animals and the different things along the way to help you be better prepared to handle them as they come.
The third pillar are the 12 agreements. Think of these as the ethical backbone of our path, right? They help us sit up straight. They're not commandments. They're commitments. Each of these must be chosen and agreed upon every day. We don't impose them. You must make the effort to agree to them. And each is lived, embodied, more so than memorized. And you agree to them because you seek to be shaped by virtue, not vanity. Now, we call them agreements instead of virtues, because knights in our modern day are not born. They are forged, as we talk about. They embark on this path with intention and purpose by choice rather than a circumstance. And we have to agree each day to live by these standards of behavior. We also have to agree each day to conduct ourselves in a way that sets us apart from others, not to lord over them, but to give them something to work towards. And I just want to kind of add in here, and we'll do some more work with the Chivalry Now philosophy, but these 12 agreements over the years were heavily inspired by the 12 trusts and teachings of Chivalry Now. So the fourth pillar are codes. The codes of the student, of the knight, and the luminary. We're kind of in the middle of a series on codes, so I'll leave that there. You can go right now and listen. Well, once you're done listening to this one, of course, you can go listen to the first show on the code. And of course, our fifth is the practice of inner alchemy. We don't run from or escape the shadow here on our path. We seek to align and transmute it. These are your triggers, your habits, your emotions and fears, understanding that they are not your enemies. They are part of that raw material, right? That we use to forge ourselves into something better. They are teachers, if you let them be. So, and we do use things like meditation, breath work, journaling, reflection, discipline to do these things. So this path isn't about status or competition. And I'm just kind of throwing this in there, Michael, about how we rank. We talk about not being hierarchies, or not having hierarchies, but we do have ranks. I just want to quickly explain that.
Yeah.
It's not about status, our ranks. It's not about competition. I learn from Michael every single time I speak to him, and I'm his teacher. Okay? There are no hierarchies here in that sense. So it's not about status or competition. A person will move through, initiate, Padawan, knight, luminary. But again, it's not to gain status or gain power over others, especially in that rank, but to grow in presence, to grow in virtue, to grow in service. Here, leadership is earned through embodiment, not because I like you, right?
Yeah.
The council is circular, a round table. All voices have worth. And at the highest level, it's not that I'm better. It's not that I am more powerful or more anything. It's just that I've been doing this longer. I can demonstrate a better devotion, or I shouldn't say better. I can demonstrate a more consistent devotion to the path, to our teachings, to the light, right? So,
Well, and I think even then, I mean, it's with this ranking structure, it is how long have you been practicing this? How much have you embodied this continuously in moments of hardship, in moments of trial? I mean, there is no perfecting this path. This is a lifelong journey. But the point of the ranks is to help people have a level of understanding of where people are at in their journey and in their embodiment of these practices.
yes, exactly. And to help encourage them a little bit too, right? Because if they can see at night, and that night is embodying the path of Ashla and the way, it gives them something to reach for, it gives them something to look up to. If that night is doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I wanted to quickly talk about something here because we have plans that someday we're going to build a sanctuary, not just a temple in a city, but a sanctuary. And I want to make something very clear. I want to make clear, what role do my teachings play in the grand scheme of all the things that we're building? Michael knows these things. We've talked about it, but I want to share them with you. The Way of Ashla is not a creation of mine. It's a revelation that I was called to translate. This is what I believe. My role is not as an owner or the Grand Pumbaa or the one that throws decrees down at the lowers, at the,
Yeah.
whatever. My role is to be a steward, forever a student and teacher, someone to carry the flame, the torch, until I can no longer physically carry it, till I die. These teachings that I have offered over the years through the various different medias, the podcasts, the books, the lectures, whatever, will continue. And I will continue to offer them for as long as I am here on this earth. And all of them are simply intended to make the path of Ashla walkable, viable, not just some pretty words on a page, right? But
Right.
lived. And long after I'm gone, and Michael knows this very well because we've had some pretty deep conversations about what I'm about to say. But long after I'm gone, my hope is that they, whoever will continue to, that these teachings will continue to live and breathe and grow long after I'm gone by those who come after me. These teachings are bridges, they're maps, not the light itself, but guides for how to recognize it, how to see it, how to refine it, how to radiate it, how to align with it.
You know, one thing I got to say is, I mean, this is a call to action. What we are hoping to implement here, we want to help create more self aware people out there. We want to create more knights in the world to help champion the world to a better place when dark times fall. I mean, this isn't about being a nice guy. This isn't about being tyrannical. This is about creating a group of individuals who can live an ethical life, not just by words, but by actions, to become more than they once were, to help others rise, to help others grow, to help create a world where we can have hard conversations and we can cultivate true relationships and live authentically, to be just, to be fulfilled in a way that is no longer based on the external world, but is in a way that community is built through shared struggles and shared strengths. We are beacons in the darkness to help bring light to those who are lost. Those who join us are individuals who want to master themselves, in turn to help master the world, to help the world come to a place of wholeness, a place of integrity.
Yeah, well said. My teachings are something that, because I felt this path needed language, it needed to be put in a way that people can do the things that you're talking about. In totality, they provide the philosophical foundation of our temple, of our sanctuary, of our way, our path. And I've structured it from initiate to luminary because I want them to really be empowered as the best way I can think for them to be, by taking the necessary steps and structure the steps in a way that if they need to go backwards, that's okay. They can. and they can go back forward again. I don't claim, and I never claim to hold absolute truth. All I'm trying to do is offer a framework. Again, our codes, my teachings, the axioms, all the things of totality are there to invite humility and discipline and reflection and response over reactivity, mirroring many of the same virtues that I found in many sources, especially like I'll give you one big example was the teachings of Christ. When I published the Axioms book, it resonated more with Christians than it did with anyone else. Probably more so agnostic Christians, but because there is an air of love and humility and service and that sanctity of inner transformation. So now they're going to say, Michael, but you use a logo that looks a lot like a Jedi logo. You've been saying all this stuff, Justin. And if you're with me this far, thank you. I love you. But they use a logo that looks like a Jedi logo. The word Ashla comes from the fiction. Ashla as a name is a very new invention. I didn't invent it. I borrowed it from the fictional universe because it, in its presence, it seems like the word could have existed long before me and you, long before time itself, right? Almost like that word is woven into the fabric of the universe, and that it's always been there to whisper to the wise and the mystics and those wounded healers, the discipline seekers. And I use the word Ashla because it provides us, much like the forest, with a language, something that's crisp and clear, that's living and practical for us. My teachings, our teachings are never meant to be worshipped. They are meant to be tested and lived and transformed into action so that they may be allowed to live and breathe and grow. I do not offer a religion. I do not offer salvation. What I offer is a living philosophy that evolves as you evolve. And again, every book, every video, podcast, whatever it is that I've created or will continue to create is part of a larger tapestry to refine the self, to serve the world, to walk in harmony with the universe and the force, and to leave the world better than we found it, not through control, but through presence. I serve not as a ruler,
No.
but as a guide, and again, a keeper of the flame. My teachings are meant to help form the root system of this path, from its philosophy to each of the steps, from the oaths to its methods of alchemy, and yet I fully recognize that this path will live beyond me. I really hope so anyway. At least as long as you can hold it together, Michael.
I got you. We'll build a foundation.
There you go. And look, others will add to it. They will clarify it. They will refine it. They will make it more modern. That is the way of Ashla. Not control, but counsel. Not dominion, but devotion.
Well, I love how you phrased it once in our talks. This isn't going to be like some Bible we release and people need to follow it from here on out. It is something that will change with the times. It's something that will adapt to where society is at. It is malleable. It is ever changing, as is the Force.
Yeah. Listen, and I'm going to leave this here and give you your final word. I give you the final word today. I don't have any exercises or affirmations because really, how do you make those for a talk like this? So I will leave it at this, Michael, because again, this is very important to me that people understand this and that you understand this and that your students and their students and their students, for as long as this goes, understand this point I'm making right now. My teachings are not the gate. They are an opening to the path. And that path, if you walk it with sincerity and you walk it with honesty and you give it your best shot every day, this path will not lead to me. It will lead to you, those who walk it, to you who is patient and clear and courageous, grounded and disciplined and awake, the you that the Force is calling forward.
Well said.
You have anything to add for our friends today?
If you're interested in this path, if you've been listening to our podcasts, I highly recommend checking out Justin's book on the Axioms. It's a great entry point. We threw a lot of information out there. We're trying to sort of paint a picture of what this dream of what we are building is, but you hear our words in all our episodes. Check out that book. That book is a great entry point to really go into what it is this path that we are teaching, what these teachings really create within our lives. I know this all can sound daunting and seem like one hell of a commitment, but once you start opening up this gold and start seeing the change that can happen in your life, learning how to handle these moments of indecision or of insecurity, the more you're going to be driven, called to even, to change your life and follow this path, whether it's through our teachings or another. Our teachings are a great foundation for cultivating a strong character and a noble life.
Well said. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining us today. We love you all very much. With love and gratitude, Ad Lucem.
Ad Lucem.